You start on the saute setting and brown your ground beef with some salt and pepper, and then toss in the onions. Some people cook them at the same time. I like to do the ground beef most of the way first, and then toss in the onions. And use your giant spurtle. So I'm just gonna let those cook down a tiny bit, and then I'm gonna turn those off, and I'll show you the rest. Okay, at this point, we're gonna put in the seasoning. So it's about a teaspoon of each of these, and I'm just gonna eyeball it because I'm holding the camera. So chili powder. Garlic powder. And cumin. And I like to add it before you add the liquid because the heat kind of helps any of the flavors kind of bloom a little bit. But it only takes a second. And then I'm going to turn off the saute function. Okay, and you can kind of see, I've been scraping as I go, but you can see there's bits stuck on the pan. So first you want to deglaze the bottom of the pan with your broth. And I don't have beef broth on hand, so it's a cup and a half. Yeah, a cup and a half. And I'm just going to use water plus some beef bouillon. And I just use the cheap Mexican aisle stuff. So, a teaspoon and a half. So, stir that and kind of scrape off the bits, because the trick to this and to not getting the rice to stick and burn is getting any stuck pieces off the bottom, as well as the way you layer it. So we've added our seasonings. And we've added our liquid. Okay, so the liquid has deglazed. I've kind of scraped along the bottom of the pot to make sure nothing is sticking. We've added the seasonings, we've added the liquid. So now this is the only tricky part, is just making sure you layer it in correctly. So the first thing you're going to layer in is your rice. You're just going to sprinkle it over the top evenly. It's a cup and a third. This is tricky one-handed. Should have pre-measured this out. Okay. So just sprinkle the rice on there. Don't stir it. And you definitely don't want it to go, because you don't want it to sink to the bottom, because that's how your rice will end up burning. So that's why you kind of just leave it sitting on the surface like that. And then you add in your tomato paste. And it's just a couple of tablespoons. And I'm out of my tube, so I'm just gonna have to pull it out of the jar here. I'm just eyeballing it. This recipe is really, really forgiving. And then the beans, and I'm adding a can of corn tonight. And again, just sprinkle it on the top. Don't stir anything at this point. And then I'm also adding extra tomatoes. I'm gonna add some salsa, but I like to add an extra bit of tomatoes. So just a can of tomatoes. But I don't like the big chunks, and I don't have petite diced, so I'm just gonna chop up some of the big chunks. I chopped it up in the can already. Just gonna take some of these bigger chunks down a little bit. Just this particular brand has really big chunks. Okay, and then the last thing that goes on top is the salsa, and it's just that cheap, like, picante, paste picante, or Walmart, whatever you have. And then the lid goes on. And because I'm using white rice, I'm just gonna do pressure cook on high, 5 minutes. That's it. If it's brown rice, it would be like 25 minutes, but it's super fast. So just make sure it's not venting. That's it. And I'll show you when it gets done what I do. Okay, so it sat for, all right, cooked for 5 minutes, and then it sat for 10 minutes, and I accidentally just bumped the cord, but it sat for 10 minutes, and then I released the pressure. So it's good now. So this is what it looks like when you first open it. And now you can give it a stir and get all of the meat and the rice combined. Like I said, if you don't want that extra tomato-y stuff in there, you don't have to do it, but I like it with it. You could add Rotel tomatoes too if you wanted less tomato but more of that flavor, but I feel like the salsa is plenty. And now I'm going to stir in a bunch of cheese. In the original recipe, they tell you to remove it from here, put it in a 9x13, and melt the cheese over the top in the oven, and then top it and serve it like a casserole, but I just feel like that's way unnecessary. So I just put in, I don't know, whatever Mexican blend I had left. And then I'm gonna put in a little cheddar because I like the way that this pre-grated cheddar melts better. And I don't feel like I have quite enough of the Mexican blend. Sorry, 1 second. So, I don't know, a couple handfuls. Stir it in so that it's melted. Seriously, the spurtle, this big giant one, it's the best for this. Or a big wooden spoon, just anything with a big long handle so you can get in there. Okay, you can see it's pretty cheesy at this point. And then my kids like it if I finish it off with a little bit of cheese on the top. Like I said, this cheddar grates or melts a little bit better than the Mexican blend. But you could do whatever you've got, Mexican blend, cheddar. And then I'm gonna put the lid back on and just let it sit and melt. Okay, so it's just a couple minutes or until it melts, and it's mostly melted now. So at this point, then I just serve it up in the bowl. Put some chips on the side, and Fritos or tortilla chips work, whatever. And I usually serve it with toppings. You can do more fresh chopped tomatoes, cilantro, avocado, olives. I have none of that. So tonight they're just gonna eat it like this. And they usually just eat it kind of with a spoon and spoon it onto the chips or scoop it up, but that's that. It's really delicious. It looks like dog food, but it's delicious.
Hey, Mom.
My kids also really like to use ranch or like leftover Cafe Rio ranch. So there's that.